Throughout my adult life, my focus has been on making the world a more beautiful place. Initially, I pursued this goal as a hairstylist, working on the external appearance of individuals to make them feel more beautiful. However, I wanted more, so I began to shift my focus to helping people make better choices and achieve greater beauty from within. As a transformational life coach, I specialize in helping you identify and change the limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. Join me each week as we discuss, interview, teach, and explore the fundamental principles of healthy relationships. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Louisa. In today's episode of Conscious Conversations with Louisa, I'm speaking with Jim Cathcart.
I'm riding free, got the highway at my feet. No place to be and no schedules to beat. There's not a thing in this world to tie me down. The buses pass me by, their destination on their face. No names on me, man, I'm not going just one place. I go where I want to be, in any town. Nothing but my mood to guide me. I follow the road I like best. 1 week I may go to Mexico. The next I'm headed northwest. 2 wheels below me and open road ahead. Don't need much money cause I'm carrying my bed. I'll work one day for my bread, then travel on. Nothing but my mood to guide me. I follow the road I like best. 1 week I may go to Ohio. The next I'm headed southwest. 90 miles to Little Rock, my roots and memories. I'll pause, but new and winding roads are calling me. My goal's the ride, not the place. I'm riding free. Don't put me down, man, I'm doing what I like. Yes, I'm happy when I am out here on my bike. I'm seeing the world my own way. Come on along. There you go, riding free. Thank you.
Absolutely love that. So now I decided every time I have anyone on this, they actually have to bless us with a song. Or actually, you know what? No, you have to come in, bless us with a song, and then they could start speaking because I'm sure a lot of people can't.
Well, I wrote that after a long motorcycle ride one summer night in 1968 in Little Rock, Arkansas. And it was just a beautiful night for a ride. And I came back home and I was just full of the whole spirit of it. And so I sat down and wrote that.
That is beautiful.
And then I took it to Memphis and I went to Sun Records where Elvis was, discovered. And I played it for them. And they said, "Hey, that's pretty good. What else you got?" And I said, "Nothing," because I was 20 something years old, like 22 years old. And I didn't have anything else. And they said, "Look, we don't need songs. We need songwriters." Oh, we don't need eggs. We need geese. Right. Okay, fine. I get it. So I went back home, but at least I had my shot. Right.
Love it. Can we get one more?
I'm still today, performing, playing gigs. I played at a roadhouse, a genuine Texas honky tonk the other night where Willie Nelson and Toby Keith and Merle Haggard have played. A place called Pootie's Roadhouse. Pootie was a guy who was a road manager for Willie Nelson for a while.
So much fun. That was exactly what I experienced when we went to book signing and you were there. And I remember you playing and I was like, wow. And I could feel your joy. I could feel your energy just from your music. And quite a few people have come in since and missed your song. Can we have one more, please?
You can have one more, but not the same one.
No, a different song. We can
Okay, different song. This one's more fun. That
Okay.
one was soothing and meaningful and, relaxing and dum da dum 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 da dum da dum dum dum. This one is about a very important religious subject, barbecue. So I need everyone who's here, you can stay muted if you want to, but I need everyone to say out loud, Jim, what is barbecue?
Jim, what is barbecue?
It's a style of cooking. It's a tasty treat, but it's a Southern man's religion, entirely based on meat. It's a taste of home, a taste of love, and the thrill of Mountain Dew. It's a touch of heaven with a dash of hell, and we call it barbecue. My friend Rupert once wrote a book about the best darn barbecue. He searched the nation for all the best, and he came up with quite a few. There were sweet ones, tart ones, peppery hot, some that taste like stew. But the absolutely positive best was Louisa's barbecue. South Carolina's got its mustard sauce and Texas 3-alarm chili. Louisiana's got its jambalaya. Tennessee has its whiskey. But I'd rather meet you in Little Rock and eat like a true hillbilly. We'll grease our chins with the best of sin. Barbecue just makes me frisky. Cheesesteaks, hot dogs, hot wings, tacos, pizza, and burgers are cool. But it's barbecue on ribs that says, break out the bibs, 'cause that's the only food that makes me drool. We'll throw down a quart of sweet tea, do some gospel singing, then we'll wander on over to the dinner table, see what folks are bringing. Yes, they'll have chicken, grits, and cornbread, even okra and greens. But if there's no barbecue on the table, you'll just see the back of my jeans. I'll be at HB's Hickory Shack, and I'll grab a nice cold brew to satisfy my craving for some down-home barbecue. Just let me sit by that open pit and get drunk on that aroma. Then I'll try the other types of barbecue, from Maine to Oklahoma. Bubba, Sissy, Earl, and Paula Sue, Uncle Luther, and Aunt Lizzie, Ellie, and you. You're all my kin, and I won't soon forget it. Yes, you're my family, and you deserve to know I love you true. But please, don't ever come between me and barbecue. 'Cause it's a taste of home, a taste of love, and a thrill of Mountain Dew. It's a touch of heaven with a dash of hell, and we call it barbecue. Now let's talk about homemade ice cream.
That is so fantastic. Thank you for that.
I wrote that for a friend of mine in Westlake Village. He had said to me, he said, Jim, bring your guitar. We're having a barbecue at the yacht club. I said, are you actually having a barbecue or are you just cooking outdoors? He said, what's the difference? I said, oh, Lord, I got to write a song. So I wrote that one.
Yeah, he's not from Texas if you ask that question.
There you go.
Well,
And the barbecue capital of Texas is Lockhart, which is just south of here. A friend of mine from the church we go to lives down there. I went down and had some Lockhart barbecue recently, and it was Larapin. Southern Larapin.
Well, I want to know, Jim, if you've been to Cooper's in Llano.
Oh, yes, I have. I've been to Cooper's in Llano and I've been to Cooper's downtown both.
Yeah.
And I found it to be okay, but Franklin's is absolutely the best.
Mhm.
It is like the barbecue is so soft, it's like pudding, and it's so delicious. It stays with you all day. I had barbecue last week at Terry Black's. I've been to all the top barbecue places, even played the song for a few of them.
I wish we were all having dinner together now.
That's what happened. You have two Texas boys sitting in the house.
Right? Now I need dinner.
Is there one meat that's barbecue or you can barbecue anything?
No, the barbecue has some primary meats. You know, it's got to be first pork, second brisket, which is beef, third chicken, And after that, sausage and optional things. But if you've got those first three covered, then you can be admitted into heaven.
Okay, brisket then. That's okay.
Yeah, brisket's my favorite.
So Jim, why are really good barbecue places in old gas stations?
Well, it's not that they're old gas stations. It's just that people would stay there and eat so long, that their ride would run out of gas. And so they just put in a pump out front.
Gotta love this. Well, let's get this show on the road. Literally.
Get this show on the road.
He's like, I'm officially prepared for this. And there he goes. And Jim, real quick, before I even introduce you, how many push-ups can you do in one time?
Well, do I get to go back on my knees and catch my breath occasionally?
Sure.
Okay, I can do over 100.
So the day I met him, he did 250, just so you all know.
Continuously?
I was at a book signing, and there were times when it was kind of boring and nothing going on. And so I just went over behind one of the rows of books and pumped out a few push-ups. And then I thought, well, I could do some more. And so I did some more. And then somebody wanted to do a contest. And so, we did that for a bit. And then I did some more later.
And then I was going to do a plank challenge with him until he told me how long he could hold it for. And then I decided I would just have a cocktail sitting on his back instead.
That's what happens when you eat barbecue on a regular basis. It's like superpower.
Right?
So how long can you plank for?
How long what?
How long can you hold a plank for?
Oh, my record is 4 hours, 16 minutes.
Oh my God.
I made that up. That's a complete
Okay.
complete lie, Elias. I have no idea. I have no idea. A push-up is a plank with motion at the front end because you got to hold your core tight. So the most push-ups I've ever done nonstop was 86.
Wow.
And then I had to go back on my knees, and I realized the guy I was competing with to see who was the first to 100, that he wasn't there yet. And he was in a front-leaning rest position, stiff, trying to catch his breath. And so I got back down and did the extra, 60, 20 and won the contest. This was in front of 2,000 people in Shanghai, China. This guy's wife had bet me 5 months before $10,000 that her husband could beat me in push-ups. Now, the reason she bet me was I was giving a big keynote speech that night at this conference. And so I was the Tony Robbins guy, the big deal for the event. And I'm standing up on stage with my interpreter beside me, a guy named Peter Gao. And Peter says, they're talking about you, because everybody's speaking Mandarin. I don't know what's going on until I'm informed. So I'm standing there looking at the audience, got on a suit, and I'm all ready to go. And they're going, and Peter says, they're talking about you. Me? What are they saying? They're saying that you do push-ups. I said, yeah, I do. They're saying that they want to have a contest. I said, really? Okay. So I take off my jacket and throw it, attitude, right? And say, bring it on. And so Mr. 35-year-old gets over next to me, and he does a couple of stretches for show. And then two other guys dash up onto the stage in their late 20s, and they get on the other side, and he says, go. And so we all get down in push-up position. We start cranking them out. And at 23 or so, these two guys are toast. They're gone. And then Mr. 35-year-old makes it almost to 30 push-ups. And then he's, one of those camel push-ups. And so I kept going. And when I got to 50, I thought, I should give a speech instead. So I stopped and I got up, and everybody screamed and cheered, and it was a lot of fun. And I was showing off, obviously. Well, at the end of it, this guy, whose name was Jianjing, we call him JJJ. JJJ's wife, Eva, came up to me and she says, I challenge you to push-up contest, $10,000. And I said, I can't take that. And my agent, David Chu, said, I'll take it. Oh, really? Yeah. In October, when you come back, this was May, we're going to have a $10,000 push-up contest. I said, okay. So then later I said to David, you think they're really serious? He said, I don't think so. And I said, well, let me know if they are, because I'm going to go into training, because it's clear he's going to. And he said, nah, I don't think they're serious. And I contacted him in June. Are they serious? Nah. So I didn't think anything about it. So October comes around. I haven't been training, but I've been doing my daily 100. So I get to the event and I'm all dressed up in my suit again. And he says, it's on. Thanks a heap. JJJ got a personal trainer and is ripped. I mean, he's just rippling muscles now. And so he's absolutely ready for this. And so I take my jacket off and everybody's screaming and cheering, and they appoint 3 people to watch me and 3 people to watch him. And it's all done like this in front of all the people. We've got a couple of thousand people in the audience. And they said, go. And we started cranking them out. And like I said, I went back on my knees at about 86. And then he was stopped. So I finished it off and I won. And we donated the money to a school. And I said, give me the mic. I said, JJJ, thank you for having me here. It's a wonderful experience being with all of you, and I appreciate the privilege, and I owe you an apology. You owe me an apology? He said through an interpreter. And I said, yeah, you're 35. And he said, and I said, well, I had you at a disadvantage. I've been 35 twice.
Oh, that poor man.
Challenged me to a push-up contest.
From a napkin for the tears.
And I've got that on video, by the way.
Of course you do. I absolutely love this. So as we all could see, why
So
he
we're going to learn how to do push-ups. Is that what this is about today?
yeah. There's a push-up challenge that's going to happen in the middle of this. I still do mine on my knees, all of them.
Well, at the first of this year, I had done 5 years of 100 push-ups a day, every day for 5 years. I missed 14 days when I had to have surgery. So I just added 14 days onto the 5-year thing. So I went 5 consecutive years with 100 push-ups every single day. And when I first started doing it, I would do 20 and then wait an hour and then do 15 or 20. And then, it'd take me all day to get my 100 in. Then after a while, I got to where I could do them all in one sitting in a couple of minutes or more. And so when I got to the 5-year mark, I thought, okay, I've been compelled to complete this challenge that I gave myself for 5 consecutive years. I don't want to keep on doing that. So what I do now is I go to the gym and I do Peloton and I do all kinds of workout things, but only usually maybe 50 push-ups. But I'm doing these and and everything else under the sun. So the main thing is I've just got to stay intentionally physically active, because I'm old enough now that it matters a ton whether I am or not.
Oh, how old are you now?
76.
Young fella.
Yep.
Right? Earlier he said
1946.
That he wrote that song before most of us were born, and then you hopped on and I was like, ooh, this was extra fun. So I want to know, we've already jumped right in. So Mr. Amazing mentor of mine and Cathcart. So one of the things Jim said to me before this started a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, as we were getting ready for this, he said, I would love to make sure that we create something that everybody gets impact from and results from, as opposed to just having let's chat. So I absolutely love your heart. And I love how powerful and intentional that is, because we show up to here and our most amazing gift that we really have in life that you can't unring the bell is time. And everybody has shown up here and is using their quality time to spend it with us. And I want to make sure everybody gets to leave having the most powerful impact. So with that, I would say, let's start it off being intentional, like really coming to the call with, what do you want to get and receive and give from this experience? And Jim has written 23 books. He's done a TED Talk. He's the president of the Speakers Association. He has a list of the most remarkable things that I would spend the rest of the hour telling you all the things he's done. One of my favorite books of yours is The Acorn Principle. So what was your first book that you wrote, actually?
First one was when I was working for the national headquarters of the Junior Chamber of Commerce in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was back during the peak of the baby boom when they had 356,000 members. I mean, today they've got like 12,000 by comparison. So they were huge, enormous back then. And I was the national program manager in charge of leadership training. And I wrote a manual called, it was a group discussion workbook called Communication Dynamics. And it was about 48 pages long or something. I may have a copy of it right here. Yep. And the first edition of it I had done with this cover.
It's hard to see that.
It looks blank.
If you look real closely, you can see there are bumps on the cover. Can you see those bumps?
Yeah, it's in Braille.
Just barely, yeah, it's Braille. And it says Communication Dynamics. And then on the inside flap, it says, just a second, I got a limited amount of light coming from overhead. Lewis was only 3 years old when he became blinded for life. His mother couldn't read to him as often as he wished. So at age 15, he decided to teach himself to read. From that day forward, the blind people of the world had the door to knowledge open to them, for Lewis Braille had found a new way to communicate. So that was the opening for my book. And later we got enough feedback that people told us, you got to write it on there. So we wrote big letters, Communication Dynamics, on the second edition, but that's the book right there.
That is fabulous. And
Sold about 78,000 copies.
how did it all begin for you? I remember our conversation about your relationship with Earl Nightingale, and I would love to go back to was that the beginning?
Yeah, 1972, in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was working as a clerk in an urban renewal agency. I was an assistant to Bob Moore, and Bob Moore was bored. So Bob didn't need help, and I was his helper. And I was being paid $525 a month. I used to say I was earning $525. No, I wasn't. It's $525 a month, and I was overweight, out of shape, smoked 2 packs a day, didn't have a college degree, didn't have money in the bank, newly married with a baby at home, and no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. And then in the next room, I heard Earl Nightingale on the radio say, if you'll spend 1 hour extra every day studying your chosen field, in 5 years, you'll be a national expert. And that completely rearranged my belief system about what was possible for me. And I thought for weeks, what do I want to do? And finally, it occurred to me, I want to do what he does, whatever that is. I didn't know what it was, but it felt down deep absolutely right. And so I became fanatical about studying personal development, applied psychology, applied behavioral science, they call it, and read all the classic books, still have some of the originals right here, like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Power of Positive Thinking and all those various things. But the cool thing is, Think and Grow Rich was written by Napoleon Hill. His partner and personal manager at the end of his career was W. Clement Stone, who wrote Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, among others. W. Clement Stone's employee who ran his magazine called Success Unlimited at the time, was Og Mandino, the author of The Greatest Salesman in the World. W. Clement Stone and Og Mandino became friends of mine. I served on a committee with W. Clement Stone, and I was his host one time when he was speaking at a conference I was at. And Og Mandino, I've been to his home. He's been, in social events with me time and time again. He called me occasionally for advice. Og Mandino called me. But that's not the big deal. The big deal is I became fanatical about Earl Nightingale and about personal development. Not Earl himself, but I had Earl's audio cassettes, which are up on the shelf above me. And I had spent a whole month's salary and then some to buy them, $560. Now consider, I'm newly married. My wife works part-time in a bank. We've got a baby at home. We're struggling to get by. I'm making $525 a month. She's making $400. And I want to buy a $560 library of audio cassettes. Not a popular recommendation. So we had many discussions, and finally, the guy that was selling them to me said, look, why don't you take these home and listen to them for a month? And at the end of the month, either give them back to me or figure out how to pay for them. So for a month, I spent 2 to 3 hours a day, and on weekends, 4 and 6 hours, listening to those recordings and taking as many notes as I could, so that I could get everything out of it before I gave it back, because clearly I wasn't going to be able to afford them. So the last day of the month comes, and I'm packaging these up back in their big old box. And Paula says to me, you don't want to take them back, do you? And I said, well, no. She said, why don't you keep them? Which was her way of saying, I like the new you better than the old you. So let's go with this one, right? So we figured out a payment plan, and I got the tapes. And then I started selling. I left the housing authority and started working for Harold Gash, the guy that sold me the tapes. And I sold them door to door to businesses in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so I'm selling Earl Nightingale's recordings. And I had to sell like 6 sales for one transaction. I'd have to go into Louisa's business and say, my name's Jim Cathcart, and I have these audio recordings from Earl Nightingale, and you should buy them to train your employees. Well, first off, nobody had a training department. Nobody had a human resources department. It was called personnel, and it was just about keeping records and insurance coverage. That was it, or workers' comp claims. And so I had to sell them on the concept of adult learning. This was 1974. Then I had to sell them on learning soft skills. What are soft skills? Anything that's not directly related to their business. So that's listening and time management and selling and interpersonal communication and goal setting and, all the usual things we know today. So I had to sell them on that concept. Then I had to sell them that it was a good idea to learn these from somebody that's not in their business. And then I had to sell them on learning them by listening to audio cassettes. And then I had to sell them audio cassette player and batteries. Honest to God, I carried with me batteries, cassette players, and big packages of cassettes, and would go door to door and try and make those sales. Well, today, adult learning is just a given, and soft skills are seen as important by virtually everybody. So today, it's just a matter of choosing who you want to learn from and in what medium. Do you want to get it all digitally? Do you want it in audiobooks? Do you want it online? Do you want it, in person? You want a mixture? You want a coach? What are you looking for? But man, that was the beginning of what became called the human potential movement. And so I was one of the pioneers, breaking new ground in the field known as the human potential movement. So that was a big deal. Now, let me add 2 more items, and I'll do them quickly. I heard Earl Nightingale on the radio in 1972. I was going nowhere. By 1974, I was really into what he did, and I decided to leave my job and start selling personal development training programs. 1979, I was in business on my own and had really started succeeding as a speaker and an author. And I would at first was teaching other people's courses, and then I started writing my own. And I wrote a book with a college professor in San Diego, Tony Alessandra. And we hit it off so well. I moved to San Diego, and we in La Jolla, San Diego, we bought an office to get leased an office together and merged all of our files. And he left the university and went to work with me. And in 1970, let's see, wait a minute, 79, that was 79. I moved to San Diego in 82. And in 84, I was sitting in my office in La Jolla. Phone rang. I picked it up, and it was Earl Nightingale himself. He said, "May I speak to Jim Cathcart?" I wet my pants. Not really, but almost. And I said, "Hi," which means this is he. How may I help you? And he said, "Mr. Cathcart, I just read an article of yours in the Nonprofit World Report. It's on personality types. And I think that would make a good audio training program because there are none on personality types." And I said, "Well, we have created one of our own. And you're right, nobody else has one. But a few people teach courses on it. And there are a couple of books on it." He said, "Well, send it to me. If I like it, we'll publish it." I sent it to him. He published it and sold in the first 2 years $3.5 million worth worldwide. So in 72, I heard him on the radio. In 74, I was selling his tapes. In 84, he was selling my tapes. Wow.
Mic drop.
In keep the mic. 1989, 5 years later, I'm the president of the National Speakers Association. 4,000 professional speakers and authors and entertainers. And we're meeting in Dallas at the Anatole Hotel. And I call in advance, and like in March, I called Earl Nightingale and I said, "Mr. Nightingale, would you do me the honor of joining me on stage at our convention in July? And let me interview you about the evolution of this field of personal development." He said, "That's interesting. I'd like to do that." He said, "It's not paid, so I can't commit yet, but if I don't get a paid engagement, I'll do it." I said, "Okay." So that was March. May of that year, his wife, Diana, called. She said, "Jim, Earl died. We've had a private ceremony and spread his ashes here at home, but I'd like to have a memorial service for him at your convention." I said, "We would be honored." And so we go to Dallas, and it's a huge convention, and all the people gather in this enormous room. And David Nightingale, Earl's son, is in the audience, and Zig Ziglar and people like that are out there in the audience. And on the platform are his widow and me. And she had asked me earlier to speak, and I told her no, it wouldn't be appropriate. I'm not a big deal. I'm not worthy, like Wayne's World, not worthy. And she said, "No, Jim." She said, "I want you." I said, "Seriously, Diana, it should be like captains of industry and world leaders." She said, I understand. But what you don't understand is you are a product of what he was trying to create. You're the perfect speaker. So I humbly accepted and didn't feel worthy. But I spoke and shared my story with the audience that day. Consider the gap between a fat, undereducated, overweight, out of shape loser in Little Rock in 1972 and the president of the National Speakers Association being the only outside speaker at Earl Nightingale's memorial in 89. Oh my God. The gap between those two is light years and so unlikely as to be laughable. So when people tell me something's not possible, I tell them, change your wording. You're mispronouncing probable. It may not be probable, but nobody knows what's possible. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
absolutely amazing. And
Now you can drop the mic.
I have been shaking holding the mic the entire time because it is you really have this way of making it seem effortless. Just show it. It's about showing up. It's about really like when I was in your space, I remember just feeling seen. I remember feeling appreciated. I remember the energy that you give off being in a room with you. So I think that that's really what people experience. You know, when I told Eric that you were going to be on, he's like, "Oh, I've met him. I'll definitely be on." And just you have that essence about you. Every time I hear people talk about you, they have an experience. It's not just a story; they experience you. And that's what I think speaks to others is the level of what it feels like to be seen, to be heard, to be inspired. And one of the things that we were talking about with Tracy before everybody got on is when I was making my copy, there's a sentence in there that says, "I can't believe he said yes." And it's like, I didn't write it. It literally just, I've tried to delete it 100 million times and it just keeps showing up in there. So if anyone's seen it, it is not done on purpose by me. But what I love about that is that it got brought to the attention in here today, because I love what you were talking about, the workouts and the ego and the way we show up. Like, of course, people say yes. And of course, they asked you to be on stage with them and on the podium with them. Of course, these things are going to happen because we show up to them. So it's not an I can't believe, it's 100% probable and possible. And it's because of who you are. And everyone
that goes straight to pardon me for interrupting, but that goes straight to the message I delivered last month to Toastmasters. I was speaking to Toastmasters International, and they are today what the JCs were back then. They have 360,000 members worldwide in 149 countries, 16,600 different clubs. Their focus is a little different. They teach communication and leadership, whereas the JCs was a civic club that did projects in the community as a way of teaching leadership and goal setting and so forth. But the Toastmasters is huge and thriving today. Well, in 1995, I had the honor of being invited to keynote the World Convention for Toastmasters International, which was being held in San Diego. I delivered the speech that night, got a screaming ovation, which was wonderful, and signed books for 2 hours. 900 people lined up for 2 hours in the evening to buy my books. I sold over $13,000 worth of individual books for like $15 a piece. Oh my God. And it was just, amazing. I was up all night. When Paula and I went to or something and had a breakfast in the middle of the night because I couldn't go to sleep. And so then in 2001, now that was 95. 6 years later, I got a call from the director of Toastmasters, and he said, "You've been selected as the Golden Gavel recipient for the year 2001, the millennium." Now, the Golden Gavel had previously gone to Lowell Thomas, Walter Cronkite, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Jeannie Robertson, Art Linkletter, Deepak Chopra, Les Brown, big names in the field of speaking. So for me to get that, which is given to one person who's not a Toastmaster every year, was huge for me. And so I went there and I spoke on the main platform to their couple thousand people in Anaheim that year. Well, fast forward 21 more years. About 3 months ago, I got a call from the director of Toastmasters, and he said, "Jim, I think it's time we had you back. Would you like to keynote our international convention in Nashville in August, late August of 2022? I said, "Have you ever had anybody back to your main stage 3 times in your whole history?" He said, "I don't know. Maybe not." I said, "Well, I'd be honored to do it." He said, "What's your title?" I didn't know what my title. I mean, he just called me. I said, "It's how to be attractive. He said, what? I don't know. Thank you, God. One of those moments where you get what you needed at the moment you needed it. He said, what is that about? I said, it's how to be a magnet for what you want, which goes to Louisa's comments a moment ago. So my title for the speech was How to Be Attractive, Become a Magnet for What You Want. And I said to the audience in that speech, if you will develop the qualities, the personal traits, habits, relationships, thinking, etc., of the person you would like to be, the greater, more evolved version of you, then all the things you want will just come as part of the package. Or you can just set a bunch of goals and go after the goals, but when you get them, they may not be fully satisfying and you may not be able to hang on to them very long. So become a magnet for what you want and still work diligently to acquire the skills and achieve the goals. But what you'll find is that as you achieve the goals you can see, goals you never even considered will pop up and say, hey, I'm all yours. I mean, Earl Nightingale called me. I wasn't trying to get an album with Nightingale on it. He called me completely out of the blue. USJC's national headquarters. When I was a local chapter member and then a district director and a coordinator for the JC's chapters in Arkansas, I never considered working on the national headquarters staff. And they called me and said, there's a position open, leadership training program manager for all 350,000 members. Are you interested? I was there that night and it's a few hundred miles away. I could go on again and again and tell you stories all night of situations where the unbelievable big deal goal came to me without my even seeking it. People say, you spoke in 23 major cities in China. They're treating you like a god. You're going around with the entourage of 18 people to keep the audience from devouring you. And you've got an interpreter everywhere you go, and they're driving you in a Rolls Royce and treating you like royalty. How did you get that international gig? Honest truth, I said yes. David Chu, who owns World Master Speakers Bureau in Shanghai, was at a national speakers convention in San Diego that I was attending as past president. And he said, I'd like to bring you to China. He said, I only represent 10 people, and one of my people has aged out. He's not speaking anymore. Joe Girard, the greatest salesman in the world at one time. He held the Guinness Book of Records for the most sales. Anyway, that was one of David Chu's speakers. I said, well, who else do you have? He said, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Jay Abraham, Bob Proctor, John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul with Jack Canfield, and Roger Dawson on negotiation. I said, okay, I'm in. I ended up going to 23 major cities. They paid me in stacks, literal truth, stacks of $100 bills. I was scared coming home because I knew I had a huge bag of money. I always declared it, so I wouldn't get arrested by the customs agents. But still, to be traveling with $20,000, $30,000 in cash is just a bit unnerving. And I had those 5 years of experiences over there, not because I did anything to go get it, but because I had become an eligible receiver. I was qualified as a runner. I was downfield and in the open. That's why they threw me the ball.
Absolutely. So you were a drug dealer, but the happy drugs were coming through you, and everybody was like, "Here's some money." And money. That's the other thing. It's like I know David's got his hand raised, but we're going for like, where's the money, as opposed to let me do the work and then the money comes.
Yeah.
David Reed, I see you have a question.
Can you hear me? Curiously.
Yep.
Okay, because I've been having issues with my audio, as you know. Hi, Jim. So happy and thankful that you're here, and I'm waving to you if you can see. One of the concepts I've heard you talk about before, and it really resonates with me, and I think you've kind of taken us down a little bit of that track today is don't do things, don't go for the result directly, but do things in your life that are going to generate the results that you want. Focus on those things as opposed to just, going directly at something and not really knowing how you're necessarily going to get there, but being the better person that those results are automatically going to come. And I really enjoyed reading about that. And I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit more just about that concept and a quicker way to get into that mindset whenever things may be not showing up exactly the way you want in life.
You bet. Thank you. I call that a relationship intelligence, being intelligent about your connections with other people. And it's more than that. It's also the acorn principle. But here's an illustration. If you want a whole lot of friends, you could go out and try and get a whole lot of people to become your friend. Or you could become the kind of person that other people say, I want to hang with you. I want you in my life. I love the energy coming from you. I like me better when I'm with you, which is the greatest compliment I ever heard. It was Bill Gove had someone say that to him one time. Bill Gove was the first president of the National Speakers Association, and he was a friend of mine. He's passed away, but he said, the greatest compliment I ever received in my life is someone said to me, I like me better when I'm with you. Wow. Wow. So if you become a good finder and you develop the habit of noticing good things about other people, noticing opportunities, noticing qualities, noticing anything, like I walked up to a airport check-in counter one time and I said, you handle that really well. And the woman behind the counter said, what? I said, that guy was behaving as a complete jerk. And I know that you inside had to be wanting to say, listen, and tell him off. But you didn't. You were smooth as silk, but still retained your strength. And I admire the way you handled it. I just thought somebody ought to tell you so. She said, thank you very much. And then she processed my boarding pass. And then a few minutes later, she said, Jim Cathcart, please come to the checkout counter. She upgraded me. Dang. So there's nice little ancillary benefits that come too, but that's not why I did it. I did it just because it's joyful to do those things. People just glow after you do something like that. Years ago, I was in Atlanta in the airport, and I was in the food court where there's 8 million people coming through every hour. And I just grabbed a quick bran muffin and a coffee, and I was standing there watching the other people. And I saw a busboy that was dragging himself from table to table, totally depressed, miserable, doing his job poorly. And after I finished my snack, I walked over and tapped him on the shoulder, and he kind of recoiled because he thought he was getting in trouble. And I said, excuse me. I said, what you're doing sure matters. He said, no, I didn't. I said, you didn't hear what I said. What you're doing sure makes a difference here. He said, what? And I said, cleaning these tables and clearing all this off. If you weren't doing this place would be unsanitary and unpleasant in probably 15 minutes. So what you're doing is important. I just wanted to say thanks for doing it. And then I walked away, and I made sure that I did not look back when I thought he would be looking at me. But I got to where I could look, and I looked back, and I swear he had grown about 6 inches. He didn't all of a sudden cheer up and become bubbly, but he was no longer slumped over and depressed. He was behaving like a normal person. What do you bet he took a little bit more pride in his work?
Mm-hmm.
See, we've got the power to do those kind of things all day long.
Well, the story
That
that you
makes
just
us
said,
a magnet.
absolutely, and the story you just said reminded me of somebody who was an amazing coach, a literal coach, and a coach in people's life, John Wooden, who I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I remember him saying, I'm sure he's not the only one who said this, but he would pride himself on treating the person with the lowest status the same as he would treat the person with the highest that he knew.
That's the way people treat people who have no power tells you a ton about those people. I shared with Louisa recently a story about when I was in Malaysia in December of 2019. I was conducting a academy over there. And in the evening, I took the group, or the group took me really, on a tourist bus and went to a fishing village where we were going to have dinner. And we walked through all the tourist trap shops, and there were beggars. And there was this one guy named Halif. I'll tell you how I know that in a minute. He's sitting on the ground in the dirt, and he's got an old beat up guitar, and he's wearing a t-shirt with holes in it, and he's got on sweatpants with holes in them. And you can see he's seated with his legs crossed. You can see that one of his legs is metal and fiberglass. So he's lost a leg, and the other is his regular leg. And so he's got a stack of papers in front of him, just plain note paper, where he'd written out the lyrics to all kinds of songs, and he speaks English. So as we're walking along and I put a little money in his hat, I saw that, and I could hear him say something. It was obvious he spoke English. And he picked up his guitar and he started playing, and I watched him sing his song. And then I said, "Hey, do you know any American songs?" He said, "I know Hotel California." And I said, "Could I sing it with you? I'm a singer and songwriter." He said, "Sure." Now, my entourage, at first, they're aghast that I'm speaking to a beggar, let alone, getting involved with this guy. And so I walk over and sit down in the dirt next to him. And they all go like that. And they're standing back and watching. And I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Halif." And I said, "I'm Jim." And we shook hands. Again, another taboo. I shouldn't be touching, right? And then he said, Do you want to play it?" So he hands me his guitar. And I said, "Well, sure." So I start playing his guitar and singing, and he's singing harmony. So it's like this. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, go ahead, Dave, saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my eyes were dim. Had to rest for the night. And I will go to the chorus. Welcome to the Hotel California.
Come on, Joe.
Such a lovely place. Such a lovely
face.
And Halif is going, "Such a lovely place. Such a lovely place." It was awesome. And we finished the song, and by now we had drawn a crowd, and more people were putting tips in the hat. And it was magical. And so I hugged him, another like that, right? And people are taking pictures, and he and I are posing for selfies and things like that. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful moment. So we're walking away from there, and Kitty, my translator, she said, "Jim, that was shocking to the others." I said, "I know, but maybe they needed shocking today." And she said, "Yeah," but she said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Well, first off, I didn't do it so that I could give him a tip. I didn't do it so that I could sing a song. I did it so that he could have a moment of feeling absolutely equal and accepted with everybody else." Every day, people look down at him, literally and figuratively. Every day, people ignore him. Every day, people insult him and talk about him and point at him. Every day. And every day he lives with that artificial leg as well. Oh, and by the way, he was playing percussion on his artificial leg while I was singing with him. It was awesome. It seemed as natural as if he had a drum set. I mean, it was just, of course you did, right?
I was
That's the
looking
way
for
it felt.
Where was the photo of that? I remember it was on your Facebook. I'm trying to find it.
They probably won't find it on the Facebook unless you scroll way, way, way back.
I thought
But yeah, I'll send it
I'll
to you.
look.
Oh no, it's in a text that I sent to you.
Got it. I was like, I
That's
know I saw
yeah.
it. It was amazing. Okay, I'm gonna find it.
Yep. Cool. And by the way, I did when I was at Toastmasters, I told the people, I said, I have a series of videos that I put together called the Cathcart method for professional presentations. And it's 26 videos and it's $997. And I made them an offer, $297 if they wanted it. I put the order form for them in the chat here. I'd be happy to honor that same thing if any of you are interested or have someone in your circle that would benefit from that. So, just save that document, print it, do whatever you want to. There's a QR code that takes you to the page where that discount is still, I haven't taken it down yet. So that was from last August.
Love it. Love it.
I want to give you a shameless plug here.
Shame on.
I don't know how much you all realize what Jim Cathcart is and what he does. And quite frankly, I did a little research while we were talking about this. You said you spent $500 or $560 on those tapes.
Yep.
In today's dollars, that's about $3,500 that you spent.
Wow.
When you did this. He chose,
Thank you for
he
that.
absolutely chose to do this.
Yeah.
And this is the power of what we have inside of us. And for Jim to offer what he just offered for $300,
Yep.
we sit in the same room with him. And I've been very fortunate. I've had dinner with him and hung out with him.
Yep.
And
I've had
it's just amazing to listen to the stories. Earl Nightingale. Most of you aren't old enough to know who know who Earl Nightingale is.
Easy for you to say, Eric.
No, right? So, but Jim, I'm honored to be in the same room again with you and just to kind of hang out with you and listen to you. And I got to jump off here because tomorrow's my birthday and I've got people here and they want me to jump in, but I wanted to be here with you.
That's
Just
one of the
really
sweetest-
share with what you do and how you do it, and to be on the same stages in the same places that so many great speakers have been. It's who you surround yourself with. And I'm honored that I get to spend a few minutes to be in the same space and to listen to what you do and how you do it and how you treat people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Please stay in touch. Thank you.
Happy birthday,
Wow.
Eric.
That was phenomenal.
He is fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember our conversation. So Jim and I, and you, how easily and generously you connected with me. And one of the things that you said to me, because we were talking, I'm a hairstylist and a life coach. And one morning he calls me, goes, "You're a lifestylist." And he put the two together. And then he said, "And you bring out the beauty in people." And I was like, that's it. I have been literally searching the world, almost that, the book that you showed with the Braille writing. I have just been doing Braille feeling of who's my daddy? Somebody show me my daddy. I need to know exactly. Because, you said, how do people, how would you want to be referred to? And what do we say you are? And that's very important in this world at work. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs in here. And I literally have been I don't know, how do I do this? And here comes Jim. "You're a lifestylist." I said, "Oh my God, that's it." So really, I love the stories, but I love the takeaways of important things that land. So I would love to hear any other questions in here for Jim tonight and what has landed for you from what he has shared.
Let her rip. Hang on. I'm going to hang up my guitar right here. so I don't have to go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. We need you.
I wanted to not knock that over. So bring it.
And the fabulous hat. Fatima, I see a question coming in.
There we go. Yes.
Well, more than a question, it's a comment. I just want to say that I'm just in awe with you. The story that you shared on here and just feeling that connection with you. I met you at one of the book signings and I didn't get a chance to really talk to you, but I feel like I really connected with you in this mastermind. Everything you said has resonated, and just want to say I'm a big fan. And when she posted it, I wasn't present because I was driving. I'm listening and I'm like, oh my God, he's amazing. Jim, just thank you for your contributions to this world and just reminding us of the greatness that, that lives inside all of us and how we all get to stand and shine. And thank you for being such a great leader and example of that. I just want to know I'm a fan and so happy to be here.
Thank you. Do you pronounce your name Fatima or Fatima?
I pronounce it Fatima. Yeah.
Fatima. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So
I think
again,
it's prettier that way. I know a lot of people who call it Fatima, but
yeah.
Fatima just sounds sweet.
Oh.
Kind of sparkles. Fatima.
Well, thank you. I personally chose to call it. My mom actually calls me Fatima when she's mad, but I'm like, no, I prefer Fatima. It just sounds nicer. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But again,
You
it's
bet.
such an honor to be here in your presence. So thank you.
You can have a lot of fun with your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're talking about what does it mean to have heard something, HEARD, obviously, it means that you noticed it, you paid attention to it, you took it in. So you can say, my name is Fatima Hurd, and that has meaning to me on two levels. One, it's my family, it's the people I love, it's the people I'm related to all the way back through time. Two, it is a state of being that I want to sustain. When someone speaks with me, I want them to feel Fatima heard what I was saying, heard what I was trying to get across. So
Oh my God.
I use it as a mantra in my life, and I use it as my official name as well. And I just wanted to let the rest of you know that I'm here to hear what you've got to share.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, right?
At least I can tell you that I'm a great listener, and I love to listen to stories. You know what? I don't know if Lisa knows, but I used to work at Caesar's Palace. I was a slot manager. And one of the fondest moments that I had working there was listening to the people that would come in from all walks of life and tell me their stories. And I would just soak it up and just keep like an archive. And believe it or not, to me, that was wisdom. So it's so interesting that you picked that up. And I never looked at my name that way. But now, thank you for sharing that, because now it's very
cool. Very cool. Where you worked where?
At Caesar's Palace.
Oh, at Caesar's. Okay, Caesar's. Yeah. Do you live in the Bay Area?
I used to live there. I lived there for 22 years. In 2017, I moved to California, but Las Vegas is, my home too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just enjoyed working there, meeting people from, like I said, all walks of life, people from all over the world, actually, and listening to the stories. I've always enjoyed, like, listening to your story right now. I envision it. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that.
You bet. Thank you. Louisa, I'll bow to your leadership here. Where shall we go next?
I think I am loving some of the comments in here. I saw Dorinda are you able to share, Dorinda? I see that you're loving this.
Me?
No, Dorinda's on here. I don't know. If you can unmute.
Hi, how are you? Sorry about that. I was on mute.
Oh.
No, I am. I'm truly loving this and listening to all of this. And it was a message that I really needed to hear today, to be honest with you. So I really do appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. You know, the message in the book, The Acorn Principle, that Fatima held up a moment ago, is we all have within us the seed of who we're capable of being. My former office manager gave me this. It's an enormous wooden acorn that's painted beautifully, and it illustrates so well what the acorn principle is. An acorn has three parts. An acorn, of course, is the universal symbol of potential. You know, tall oaks from tiny acorns grow, and we hear about that all our lives. Well, an acorn has three parts: a stem, a cap, and a seed, a past, a present, and a future. If you look at it this way, the stem represents the connection between you and all the people in your line that ever existed back to the beginning of time. You have in your DNA bits of those folks, good, bad, and ugly. All of them made some contribution, and it's in there. So you and I are a combination of those that we inherited through that stem. The cap holds onto the seed until the seed's ready to grow on its own. And so that represents your parents, your guides, your teachers, your coaches, your mentors, your role models, your heroes. And the seed represents the potential that still lives within you and the potential that will show up through a stem in all the lives that you touch and the lives that they touch for the rest of recorded time. Now, an acorn cannot be a giant redwood, nor can it be a spruce or a pine, but it can be a magnificent oak, or it can be squirrel food or a tiny little scrub brush oak. The acorn doesn't have a lot of choice, but you do. You won't change your nature, but you can certainly determine what becomes of your nature. See, everyone needs to know what kind of person they are. Who are they? What makes you who you are? In what ways are you intelligent? What are the values that you treasure the most? That's part of the essence of you. What is your best energy and drive pattern, which I call personal velocity? What's the best velocity pattern you should structure your life around? Because if you've got natural high velocity and you live a low velocity life, you will be bored and depressed. If you're naturally lower velocity and you're trying to live a super high velocity life, you're going to be overwhelmed and burned out. So the key is not to change yourself, it's discover yourself and then become a tailor and tailor every aspect of your life around your absolute nature, your intellect, your values, your behavioral style, your background imprint, all the various elements that make up who you are. And in the book, The Acorn Principle, which you can get digitally as well as get a printed book, you can also get an audio book, I think. And I made the book a self-guided tour of you. So I walk people through what makes them who they are and what makes the people you know who they are. Because just because you've got, Louisa, 2 kids that came from you doesn't mean your kids are like you. So the mix that makes up their acorn is going to have part of you in it, but it's not going to be a match. It's just going to be compatible. And they are unique beings that never existed before. And they've got the chance, like in the book, Dead Poets Society, and the powerful play goes on, and you have a chance to contribute a verse. What will it be? Right? So nurture your nature. Don't try to change your nature. Same thing's true for your kids. Don't try to change them. Try to help them evolve into the best version of them that they can be.
I remember us having a conversation about your son and your grandson, and it is so beautiful the way you share about your family and how unbelievably spectacular they are.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's because of who you are and your wife. And you know, I also noticed you were recording your wife on stage, and she turned around and saw you, and you could feel people being together and enjoying each other, and you live this work. You don't just like the camera doesn't turn on and Jim turns on because the camera's on, and then because I've worked with people,
Right.
Well,
when I started, I was that way. When I started out with the JCs back in the 70s, I was trying to be impressive, and so I did the things I thought would impress others, and in a couple of instances was absolutely humiliated by my hubris. I got caught saying more than was true. I wasn't lying directly, but I was overinflating the truth. And she, and I just said, I don't like this feeling. I don't ever want it again. So I'm going to be the same me on and off the platform. And I know a lot of speakers, thousands, literally. I know more speakers than most people on earth. And many of them, not most, but many of them have two personalities, one that they put on for pay and one that's them when nobody's watching.
Well, I like yours all the way around because I like knowing exactly off camera, on camera, you were 100% such a gem in this world. And I'm so grateful knowing you.
Thank you. Golly, thank you. Woo.
That's
cool stuff. Yeah.
I was watching Fatima's face as you were speaking, and you would think she was like in the land of fairies. I was watching her face as she's listening to you.
I love that.
I love when when you experience other people. I love sitting back and experiencing things around me. And the reason I love hosting this is because I love people's faces. I love their stories, but I love their faces. I love as you you watch them listen and nod their head and take things away. And you know that they're going to go home and be like, or they are home. And it's such, all these years that I've been doing hair, I always wish there was like a flies on the wall that could like share what was happening between me and that person. And now it really does get to happen in the room like this, where all of these conversations get to happen together. And so we're all feeling it. And that just makes me so happy.
I found an emoticon. And one with little hearts.
I love it.
Thank you for that. That was sweet.
Thank you. If it wasn't for people who really care to be in a room where they experience this wouldn't exist. So I'm truly grateful for you saying yes. I'm truly grateful for everyone else showing up and knowing that the world that I love living in, you all celebrate with me. And, when you wake up and you're showing your pictures of you and your Peloton, it re-energizes all of us to, take ourselves on. You do push-ups. I'm like, I could do push-ups if he was doing push-ups. So we all come alive together and it's all energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Wow. This is just, I'm going to sleep well tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Fatima.
Can I just add that I personally witnessed when Jim beat a 30-year-old in push-ups. Personally saw it, witnessed it, and he almost did it with one hand. I was like, wow. And so just want to brag.
Oh, we were talking about that. We were talking about that, by the way. And I did tell Jim that day, I said, I will have a plank challenge with you. And then he told me how long he can hold a plank for. And I changed my challenge.
Yeah,
so I was
Pretty amazing. He's pretty amazing.
He is.
Very inspiring.
Great. Well, folks, Dave, you want to take me on? Okay.
Yeah,
5 years to train.
I said I needed 5 years to train. I didn't say right now.
Let's see. I'm 76, so I'm going to be 81.
Well, that was part of what I put that in.
Part of
I
your
figured
strategy.
I may get a little bit, might get a little bit easier for me. So. And it might not either, so it's okay.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah. So, of course, I enjoyed your stories. I enjoyed your presence, your energy. You're exciting. I enjoyed you interacting with all of Luis's group. I'm so pleased and proud to be part of Luis's group. She's introduced me some amazing people, but
She's
I
amazing.
totally resonate with what you say and the way that you say it. I'm 81 years old and 41, and
Mhm.
I practice and live my life a lot the way that you have demonstrated and also verbalized. And it's a
Good.
joy to be with younger people. It's a joy to be with all people.
Yeah.
It's the what resonates with me is two things. One is you have your life, you lead it every day, get up and just do it and just be the best person that you can be to everybody in your world. It's
Yes.
challenging because everybody carries their weight with them when you meet them. But as you do, you interact and you lift them past that point to the better place that they can be.
Yeah. And
The other-
even, it's really easy to swim downstream. So it's really easy to just sit in front of the couch and sit on the couch in front of the TV and veg. It's really easy to not go to the place you said you were going to go. Like the other night, I came home from a meeting and I had a couple of hours before I was to go out. And I'm here alone. My wife's at a class reunion. So nobody's going to care whether I go to the place I said I was going to go, which was an open mic at a roadhouse near here. I mentioned it at the first part of the show tonight. I wanted to go to that and I had it in my calendar, but once I got home, I got comfortable. I started thinking, nobody knows or cares. So I don't know if I'm going to go or not. So I got in the car. Now what? I didn't know whether I was going to go or not. In other words, I was in a position of indecision. So I took the first step toward my commitment.
That's it.
I put my guitar in the car and I got in. Now, I still don't have to go, but I pulled out of the driveway. And after that, it was just all committee work. I got there and they said, hey, not just open mic, you can do 20 minutes, knock yourself out. So I did 9 songs, but by the time I got off stage, I probably took more than 20 minutes. I had a blast. Hey, Jay. Just want to say hi. And Carrie, I haven't spoken directly to you yet. Howdy. Yep. And Kevin, there you go. But that's the thing, if you don't want to go work out, then put on your workout clothes. Yeah, but I might not go work out. Yeah, but you might. Okay, so just put on your workout clothes. Hi, Tracy. And if you aren't sure you want to go, then just get in the car. See what happens. You can always back out. It's kind of like foods that you shouldn't be eating. Why do you have them in the house? Well, I don't want to waste them. Well, how do you spell waste? Seriously. It's either going into the waste basket or it's going to your waste.
Waste.
Which waste do you choose? All food goes to waste, right? So just get it out of your house. Take away the temptation of the things you don't want to do.
Yep.
So the
And I
other
love
thing-
what you said the other day. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I just want one other thing is that when you say, if you want to have friends, then the best thing to do is to be a friend to somebody.
Absolutely.
If you want to be loved, the best thing to do is to love other people, and that's when you talk about to imagine yourself, to project yourself, who you want to be it. It's really very simple, it's so simple.
Not
One
easy,
friend,
but it's simple.
be a
Yeah.
friend.
Right. And then my son said when he was in college, he worked at Mailboxes, etc., which is now the UPS store. And he said, I noticed something, Dad. He said, the people that get the most mail send the most mail.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So I want more customers. Good. Serve more people. Well, nobody's paying. Nobody. Who am I going to serve?
The
Whoever you're in touch with now, serve them well.
The
And
best
let
thing
'em know that you
I
were
learned
there.
from Tony Robbins was make the phone call. Whatever you
Yeah.
whatever it is, nothing happens until you make the phone call. Most
That's right.
people say, "Oh no, they don't want to talk to me. I don't have nothing to say to them. I
Yeah.
don't know what that." No, if you
I
make
don't
the
know
phone
what I'm
call,
gonna say. Well, then get them on the line and figure it out while you're there. Yeah.
Michael Jordan used to say he missed every shot that he didn't take. So there you go.
That's a
You remember Wayne Gretzky is quoted as saying, "Skate to where the puck's gonna be,
Yep.
not where it is." When I lived in Thousand Oaks, I lived in Sherwood Country Club, and he did too. He was about a block from where I lived, and I would see him at in the locker room at the fitness facility at the club 2 or 3 times a week. And one morning, I was in there, and I said, "Wayne, I was in Canada the other day, and I told the people that you're a neighbor of mine." And they said, "Oh, we love Wayne. We love Wayne. Tell him hello." And he said, "Yeah, they're wonderful people up there." And I said, "The speaker just before me had used your line, skate to where the puck's going to be." He said, "That's really actually not my line." I said, "That's not your line?" I mean, you are world famous for that line. He said, "No, it's my dad's line." Oh, okay.
He stole from the best.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really nice to experience you, and
Thank you, Joe.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
appreciate
Joe.
it.
Tracy,
Well, let's
I
take
see-
one last question, then we can
Yeah.
wrap this up.
Oh, goody.
Because it's nighttime in Texas, 9:47 p.m.
wow, we so appreciate you. Thank you, Jim.
Happy
We
to-
will do our last one and then call it a
Okay.
night.
So it's me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So my question is, I also had a similar path, but instead of making books and speaking engagements, I was making products. And I am so interested, like these conversations to me are better than any candy, better than any, like this is the juicy, yummy, wonderful stuff in life is that when like just the story about the guy and the music and getting down on the ground with him and giving him that dignity of being normal. I'm so moved by that kind of thing. And I retired and I'm sort of like trying to figure out, I'm like asking God, the universe, okay, where do I put my juice that I can make that kind of difference? I know how to do it in my normal life, but I'm looking like I'm in the inquiry about what's next.
Yeah.
And the question that came up for me with respect to how you got on this path was before, when you were married and struggling and working and calling yourself overweight and loser, and yet you had this opportunity and your wife's like, yeah, go ahead, let's buy those things that were like, spending $50,000 back then. And you do it and your whole life changes. I'm like wondering what was in you that had you be the person. Did you have a faith? Were you raised with amazing parents? Were you just always a seeker and thinking that you had something, but you just didn't know what it was? What was it that got you from living a predictable, almost nearly like certain future of failure, paycheck to paycheck, and not that guy?
Well, first off, I didn't expect to have a big life. I expected to have a very ordinary life, live to 65 or work to 65 and retire, live till the statistical number for my gene pool, and then die and get out of the way so somebody else could come along. And I was taught growing up to be a good person, be a good neighbor, be a good patriot, be a good everything. But I was not taught to aspire to greatness or big things or to live a huge life.
Right.
And some other time when we're doing one of these, I'll talk with you about my passion and purpose statement. It's a process that I went through defining what it is that I want to do with my life. Why do I think I exist? That day was the turning point day for me in 1972. When I heard that on the radio, I had always thought about being a movie star or being a hero or being something like that. But I'd never connected with it to where I expected to turn even a portion of it into a reality. And in school, I was a okay student. The courses I liked, I did well. The courses I didn't like, I did average or poorly. And so I hadn't been an athlete, didn't have much to brag about, except I married well and had a beautiful son, so that was good, but didn't know what to do. And then he says 1 hour a day, and I did the math. Hour a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 5 years, that's 1,250 hours. Well, you study anything for 1,250 hours, you're going to be one of the leading experts on that subject. So I committed to studying personal development for at least an hour, sometimes 3, 5, 6, just whatever I could commit myself to. And I became fanatical in the sense that I was weird. Fanatical in the true textbook definition of fanatical about personal development. That's all I wanted to hear about, think about, be around, period. And so my circle of friends changed. Of course they would. Those that weren't interested in personal development drifted away. We were still friends, but we didn't get together anymore. And those that were interested in it couldn't wait till our next get together. Neither could I. And they were like rocket fuel for me. And so it just, just exponential expansion. And I couldn't wait to get up in the morning. Now, at the beginning of the passage, I was working at the housing authority, and Paula literally had to pull me to a sitting position and convince me to get up in the morning. Come on, Jim, you got to get to work. Yeah, no, I'll be along. No, seriously, it's, we're running out. I mean, you need to do it now. Okay. Now, seriously, put your feet on the floor. All right. And then I'd get up. But it was a pain because I had no reason other than the financial need to have a job. I was not even a smidgen motivated to do that job. Hated it. And then I heard Earl Nightingale on the radio, and within a matter of weeks or a few months at least, I couldn't wait to get up and start the day. Where's my writing pad? Give me a pen. Okay. No, don't turn the radio on. I got to think, wow. And then I'd grab a book and I'd be transcribed. I mean, I was fanatical, but it worked. Fanaticism works. By the way, success is abnormal. So if you're not willing to be a little weird, you're going to be ordinary. Success is absolutely abnormal.
That's good. You get a weird crew here, for sure.
I declare us all abnormal and very successful.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a joy to be with all of you. I love seeing all these happy faces, and I appreciate all the interaction and all the great words. That I hope you download that form that I put in the chat, because that way you can keep it and you can just scan it with your phone or something if you want to pass that along to someone or use it for yourself. So
and the 3 little dots in the corners, how you could save it or tap onto it and have it come up onto your screen right away. So that way, because sometimes I think I have it.
I see open file, show in Finder. Yeah.
Yeah. So tap onto it right now. So it saves it onto your computer. That way, after we log off, you still have it.
Cool.
Louisa, do you have a
once you
copy
get
of it? Because I think I logged on again and I lost it in the chat.
Oh, Jim, can we repost it
I
for
also
anybody?
don't have it.
Yeah, you can.
I have it.
Yeah, you can share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And excuse me, if you get it, once you get it, reach out to me and we can talk about how to use it best.
I love it. It's not letting me redo it. So if somebody's able to copy that and put it back in the chat, it would be so appreciated.
Super
I
good.
want to make sure everyone has access to it.
I will email it to you as well.
Perfect. And I will send it out with our emails that goes out to everyone, along with a recording of this, because I know there's a lot that got shared in here. And if you want to be able to replay it again for yourself, it would be fabulous. Jim, we love you so very much.
Thank you.
And I'm
Thank you.
so grateful for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a great way to cap off a very good day.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I've already
everyone.
done the email, by the way.
I'm sorry.
The email's already on its way to you.
Of course it is. You are
Cool.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being
Thank you.
on here
Thank
with
you,
us, and love you all.
You and you.